You know that feeling? When you're right there, about to try something new, something big maybe, and then that little voice starts whispering, all the ways it could just crash and burn.
Oh, yeah, we've definitely all been there. It's almost paralyzing sometimes.
Exactly. So today we're diving right into that feeling. We're doing a deep dive using some really powerful bits from Denzel Washington's commencement speech.
The one called Denzel Washington's Life Advice Will Leave You Speechless. From Motivation Madness on YouTube.
That's the one. And our mission here, for us as learners, is to really unpack what he's saying about risk and failure and,
Yeah.
well, using your potential.
Right. And it's not just feel-good celebrity talk, is it? You get the sense there are some real actionable insights there.
Totally. We want to pull those out.
So where do we start? I mean, the thing that jumps out almost immediately is his take on, like, a safety net.
Yeah. He kind of argues against having something to fall back on.
Which is so counter to what we usually hear. He says, aim to fall forward. What's that really about?
Well, the idea, I think, is that if you commit fully, without that guaranteed plan B, you're actually more likely to push yourself forward, even if you stumble.
So the fall itself isn't the end. It's part of the process.
Yeah, exactly. It becomes momentum, a learning thing, not just a full stop.
Yeah.
He gives those examples, like Reggie Jackson.
Right, famous for strikeouts.
But also famous for the home runs. You can't really have one without risking the other.
Mm-hmm.
And Thomas Edison, right? All those attempts before the light bulb finally worked.
Thousands, wasn't it?
Something like that.
Yeah.
It really makes you see failure differently. Like it's just baked into progress.
It really does. It makes you think about experimentation in general, science, starting a business.
Absolutely.
Progress usually means you've got to be willing to test things, see what doesn't work.
Right.
So failure isn't the opposite of success. It can be like a stepping stone.
And he's super direct about how inevitable those steps are. He just lays it out.
Yeah.
Everyone fails. Everyone. You'll lose. You'll embarrass yourself. You'll just suck at something.
Yeah, he doesn't mince words.
It's kind of freeing, actually. Just admitting, okay, none of us are perfect.
So why is accepting that inevitability, why is that so important if you want to take risks?
Well, he tells that great story, that personal one, about his audition.
Oh, the musical audition. Yeah, that's brilliant.
Totally. So the person before him is apparently amazing, like vocally gifted. Then Denzel gets up to sing, what was it? Just My Imagination.
By the Temptations.
And he paints this picture, the pianist just looking at him, the director. Clearly unimpressed. Hilarious.
But the key thing is what he did next, right?
Exactly. He still went back for the acting part of the audition. He didn't get the singing role, obviously.
Right.
But he didn't let that one specific failure just, crush everything else.
That really speaks to resilience, doesn't it? And being able to compartmentalize, that's a big knockback.
For sure.
Especially early on. But he didn't let it define him or make him doubt his other talents.
Which ties right into his point about persistence, that barbershop analogy he uses.
Yeah, the barbershop.
Right.
Simple but good.
If you just hang around long enough, eventually you're going to get a haircut. It's about showing up, consistently putting yourself out there.
Being in the right place for opportunity to find you, kind of.
Yeah. And his own story is the perfect example. Years later, decades even, after that terrible musical audition.
He ends up starring in Fences on Broadway, wins a Tony Award.
And here's the kicker. It was in the exact same theater where he bombed that audition 30 years before.
Wow, that's incredible. What does that tell you about sticking with it?
It's huge, isn't it?
It really drives home that success often takes time, like sustained effort. It's not always instant. There's usually this period of just grinding, showing up, working at it, even when you've had setbacks before.
Well,
the barbershop thing, yeah, it captures that perfectly. You just got to keep going back.
And then he hits you with that line. It's pretty powerful. If you don't fail, you're not even trying.
That's a tough one to argue with.
And his wife's saying, too, to get something you never had, you have to do something you never did.
Right. It reframes the whole idea. Staying comfortable means staying limited.
Yeah.
It makes you rethink risk, doesn't it? Like, we worry so much about the risk of failing. But maybe the bigger risk is just not trying at all, playing it too safe.
That Les Brown analogy he uses really nails that.
Oh, the ghosts.
Yeah, the ghosts of unfulfilled potential around your deathbed. Imagine that.
It's a vivid image. All the ideas you had but never pursued, the talents you didn't use.
All just hovering there. It makes you ask, okay, how many ghosts are going to be around my bed?
Right.
It's meant to spur you into action, right?
Definitely. Focuses on the cost of inaction.
And that image, those ghosts, it leads right into his call to, well, use your gifts. Use what you have.
He talks about the investment in education, what you learn.
Right. And how the world actually needs those talents.
Hmm.
He mentions his trip, was it South Africa?
Yeah, South Africa, seeing the poverty there.
But then he broadens it out, doesn't he? He says, look, the need is everywhere. Middle East, Japan, Alabama, Philly.
It's a reminder that you don't have to look far to find somewhere to contribute.
Opportunities are all around us.
And that connects to this idea of, responsibility almost. You gain skills, knowledge. Maybe you have an obligation to use them.
Yeah, maybe. And that U-Haul metaphor.
Yeah. You never see a U-Haul behind a hearse.
Exactly. You can't take the stuff with you. So the real question is, what are you going to do with what you do have?
Your time, your talents.
Yeah, he lists all sorts of things. Business skills, theological knowledge, nursing, kindness, patience, love. It's way broader than just money or career skills.
Absolutely. It really expands the definition of what we have to offer.
And then he kind of pivots, saying that failure itself can be a guide, a course correction.
Because life isn't a straight line, right?
Not at all. The path we think we're on isn't always the one we end up taking.
And those detours, the things that feel like failures at the time, they can actually point you somewhere better, more suited to you.
His own journey is a prime example of that, isn't it? He started out pre-med.
Struggling with, what was that term?
Cardiac morphogenesis. He could barely say it, apparently.
Yay. Then pre-law?
Then journalism.
Yeah.
His GPA just kept dropping.
Until the university basically said, maybe take some time off.
Yeah. Sounds like a total mess, right? Series of failures.
It could seem that way.
But then, March 27th, 1975, he's in his mom's beauty shop.
And that older woman gives him the prophecy.
Tells him, you are going to travel the world and speak to millions of people. And he's just like, okay, sure, lady. Totally skeptical.
Which you would be. It came out of nowhere.
Completely.
But that's what's interesting, isn't it? The redirection didn't come from some logical next step based on his studies. It was totally external, almost random.
You got to be open to those things, I guess.
Yeah, don't dismiss things just because they seem unlikely at first.
And then that seed started to grow. He's at a YMCA Camp Talent show later.
And another counselor says, hey, have you ever thought about acting?
Another nudge. Totally unexpected. And that leads him back to Fordham. Change of major to acting.
And bam. The film career happens. He does end up speaking to millions, just not maybe in the way he first imagined.
Exactly. Fulfilling the prophecy. It's such a clear example of how those failures, the bad grades, the time off, were actually pushing him towards his real path.
It's a fantastic story. And he finishes on a really hopeful note about young people today, doesn't he?
Yeah, he seems genuinely optimistic.
So, boiling it down, it feels like Washington's core message is, you got to embrace the risk. You have to see failure as data, information, not the end.
Right, a learning opportunity.
And that maybe the risk of not trying, of letting that potential just sit there, is actually way scarier than the risk of falling down a few times.
And then find your unique stuff, your talents, your gifts, whatever you want to call them.
And use them, actively put them out into the world. His own life is just exhibit A for all of this.
Absolutely. So, for you listening, our learner, as you think about all this, think about that moment in the beauty shop. That unexpected turn.
Yeah, what detours might be waiting on your path? Are you open to them?
Can you see something that feels like a failure right now as maybe a redirection? Something pushing you towards where you're really supposed to make an impact.
And think about those ghosts again, that unfulfilled potential.
What's just one small thing, one tiny step you could take, maybe even today, to start bringing one of those ideas, one of those talents out of the shadows?